Hello and happy Friday. Welcome to the PTA Global Interview Series, the interview series with PTA Global co-founders and contributors. Today, we have the amazing Justin Price here. Thank you for joining us, Justin.
Thanks, Dan. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We've got a lot of good stuff to cover. So for all you folks out there, thank you for attending. I just want to do a few housekeeping things to make sure we all know what's happening over the next 45 minutes or so. You're all muted, right? So that we don't have a lot of background noise and so forth. So we can't hear anything that you have to say. However, you can type questions and we want you to, okay? Any comments, any feedback, anything, put it in the question box and you'll see me looking off to the left because that's where I have it open, and I'll be looking for those questions in there. There's just going to be a video of Justin and myself speaking, no PowerPoint presentation other than the image you see. We're going to try to run about 30, 40 minutes of interview and some Q&A, so please put your questions in there. You're going to see a tab on your control panel that says downloads. So please click on that and download the documents. We have some special offers in there. We have more information about what Justin Price is doing in the BioMechanics Method. So please download those handouts. Last little thing here is there is no exam for attending the webinar. It's not a CEC course and there's no exam, so that's the good news. So with that, let's get things going here and really dive into the reason we're here today. Again, interviewing and getting to know the brilliant minds that help make PTA Global exist. And today it's Justin Price. So Justin, if you would please share with our listeners just a little bit about yourself, you know, your history in the industry and how you came to know us and what you're doing now.
Thanks, Dan. Well, I think my history is probably similar to the people that are watching this webinar. I started out in the health and fitness industry over 30 years ago as a fitness instructor. I soon progressed to being a personal trainer. That was in London, where I as a personal trainer working at gyms, corporate gyms, studios, and so forth, until I moved to San Diego, California, and opened my own studio specializing in corrective exercise. I specialized in corrective exercise because the whole time I was a personal trainer, I noticed that clients had muscle and joint pain that were affecting their ability to work out successfully. So, you know, they're coming in and they're saying, well, I can't do that, or I can't do this because of, you know, knee pain, back pain, and so forth. So I was concerned from the outset of my career that, hey, this is a little crazy. Why are people who are excited about exercise not being able to exercise? So I tried to find a solution at that stage with physical therapy and physiotherapy and so forth, but that was always referring out to other people and giving work to other people. So I thought there must be a solution. So even from those early days, I was looking for solutions, trying to find techniques to help people with these limitations that they had. And that's why when I got to San Diego, I had these skills to open a corrective exercise-based studio. And then my work continued in corrective exercise. I started to become recognized in that area until I won IDEA Personal Trainer of the Year in 2006. And then obviously started to meet more people in the industry, which is how I got involved with PTA Global, you know, helping them create that great course or courses. Continued with the studio and clients in corrective exercise, learning more and more techniques until we launched the BioMechanics Method, which is obviously a corrective exercise specialist certification program and related courses. And it's continued to grow exponentially. It's now the highest rated corrective exercise specialist certification in the industry. We have specialists in over 70 countries. And yeah, we've even got approached by Human Kinetics to publish an academic textbook, which came out a couple of years ago. So now the biomechanics methods are in colleges and universities as well around the world. So we're very happy that this information is now available to health and fitness professionals, and I'm excited about that.
Wow, what a great journey, and that's great to hear. It definitely, if any of you have had the opportunity to go through any of our courses, you'll see Justin in there teaching client screening, doing some interviews and so forth. He's a big part of who we are and how we got here. Now, one of the questions for the listeners out there, and thank you all again for joining us. One of the questions that you may have heard me ask if you've tuned into these before is a similar question for each one of the folks that we interview and talk to, because we want you to hear their perspectives on what it takes to be successful in this industry. I want to hear those perspectives. So the question, Justin, for you is, you've been not to date anybody here, but I'm guessing you've been in the industry at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Looking back 20, 25 years, when you started, like you mentioned, you started like many of the folks on the call. There were certain traits, skill sets, characteristics, education, whatever it may be, that you found really contributed to the success of those coaches and those trainers 20, 25 years ago. Which of those, what things, traits, characteristics, habits, whatever it may be, are still just as relevant, just as important for those trainers to be successful today? So where's the overlap? What hasn't changed?
Well, that's a great question. I thought about this hard because obviously you sent me this question ahead of time. But I think the number one thing that hasn't changed is people's passion. So the client's passion for health and fitness, and also the professional's passion for health and fitness. Health and fitness is obviously a massive industry. It's always been a massive industry, and it's growing exponentially as time goes on. We get more and more people wanting to be professionals in the industry, and we also get more and more clients looking for professionals for health. So we're in the right industry. So that passion hasn't changed. And I think that passion is what has led to increase in demand in health and fitness. And that increase in demand has led to specialty areas within the industry. That's why you can see people now, you've got nutrition specialists, you've got sports specific specialists, you've got coaching specialists, you've got corrective exercise specialists. And that's driven out of this passion to find answers to the problems people have. So I think that is the quality that, the driving quality is passion. So if you don't have passion, you're in the wrong industry. But most people who are in the health and fitness industry or fitness professionals have passion, and they can see that this passion coming out in the client's eyes, and the way they're going to help people harness that passion to reaching their goals is specializing to make sure that they can provide the right help in the right areas to make sure that that passion turns into success.
Oh, I love it. And to recap, passion is in a nutshell what 20 years ago, helped make those men and women successful in the coaching and personal training career stands just as true today. And an observation I've made that's been very interesting is the passion comes from so many different places, right? It could be that maybe someone was, I'm going to call it broken because that was me, but physically broken down. Maybe somebody's overweight, maybe somebody's injured, but they've had their own challenges and they were able to overcome them using exercise, and that generates this passion. It could be the love of science, it could be love of the human body and movement, it could be something they learned in college. So we all come from different backgrounds to generate that universal passion, and I absolutely love to see that.
Exactly.
Very, very well said.
Now, good point.
Well, and on that note, so Justin, again, you're on the forefront in seeing where the industry is headed, up to and including the last, what do we want to call it, 3 months, which have been absolutely insane, which is why we're doing interviews, online and discovering new ways to communicate. But between both, what you saw the industry doing and where you see it heading in the future, and what we've just seen happen over the last 3 months, what advice would you give somebody who's trying to take their business to the next level, to continue to evolve, to continue to make a career out of personal training and coaching?
Well, I think the successful fitness professional of the future, what they will do is really work on helping the body work better, not just harder. For 20 years, we've been good at making the body work hard because we're excited, we're passionate, so we're like, I'm going to bust butt with this person and get them to work hard. The problem is exercise is always seen as maximal physical exertion, push, 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 push. The problem is bodies break down because most of our bodies these days, because we spend our lives on computers sitting on our butt, not doing much, they break down whenever we put them under maximal physical exertion. So I think the fitness professional of the future will take that into consideration and make sure that they individualize their programs, do the assessments that are required to say, hey, your body's at this state or stage, we need to get into a better working state if that is your goal. Or before I, put maximal load squats under you, let's make sure that you can handle it first. Because otherwise it's not a good service to the client, is it? You try to whip their ass, let's say, and they, at the time, they may be feeling nervous because their first session, so they go, oh, just listen, I'll do whatever you say. But the next day, they can't get out of bed because they're so sore, they come back, or they drop out because their knee or back hurts. That's not good for you because your business is going to suffer, and it's not good for them because they either drop out or go to another profession. So I think the successful fitness professional of the future now will start addressing that and make sure that they understand their client, their imbalances, their weaknesses and dysfunction, and address that as part of their ongoing program. I'm not saying that they should stop working out and doing the fun things that the clients want and do corrective exercise. I'm saying it should be integrated and be a fundamental part of all programs.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think we would agree that, again, because of the happenings globally the last 3 months, and still in places, for example, in your home country, the UK, where gyms are still shut down.
I'm from New Zealand, man.
Yeah, oh, I thought it was UK. Well, here we are finding ourselves a lot of
I was
folks.
born in the UK.
Okay, well, it's the sexy accent, no matter how you slice it, buddy.
New Zealand, UK.
We found ourselves a lot of folks who were perhaps either picking up activity or were already active. They had gym memberships, etc. And now the gyms are reopening in many areas. And to your point, they've been sitting, maybe they've been doing other things. They haven't been under that squat bar, or they haven't been on that machine. And it's absolutely imperative that we're paying attention to those folks. You don't just jump in and pick up where you were 3 months ago, right?
No.
So very good advice. I want to remind the listeners that you have a question panel or a question box. Put your questions in there so that we can make sure and get those to the end. And I'm keeping my eyes on it. So I'm looking off to the left, and I'm gonna throw in there that let's see, where is it? Somebody mentioned Rahul. He's great. I'm doing his course, and I'm now on the 3rd module. So I wanted to throw that one out there.
Well, thanks, Rahul.
So now let's talk more about what you're specializing in now, Justin. So you own a company and an education program called the BioMechanics Method. Can you describe to me and the listeners how it's different from other corrective exercise programs?
Perfect. Let me tell you what it is for those people who don't know. So the BioMechanics Method is a corrective exercise specialist certification. It's divided into 5 parts. So in part 1, you learn how to assess the body for imbalances so that you understand what your client's problems are from the outset, or get a baseline of their dysfunction. Part 2, or the second module, because Rahul referred to modules, so that these 5 parts are 5 modules. So part 2 is module 2, which is about understanding what muscles and movements have been affected by those imbalances that you identified in the first module. So it teaches how those imbalances are affecting your muscles and movement, or how your dysfunctional muscles or dysfunctional movement are contributing or causing those imbalances. You then move on to module 3, which introduces you to corrective exercise and teaches you how corrective exercise can target muscles and movement to obviously fix those imbalances so that your clients will move and feel better. Module 4, or part 4, is an entire corrective exercise library, so that you have a selection of exercises to choose from to target those imbalances and the muscles and movements you have identified as being problematic. And then obviously the last module or part is corrective exercise program design, which teaches you how to put all that together, so in a simple format so that your clients understand it. Because that is the difference between our program and other programs. Is a lot of programs are sink or swim. They say, here's the information, good luck, we'll see you at the end when you take the test. We don't do that. Our program is designed to empower you along the way, so you gain knowledge and confidence as you go through the course. Could you imagine if we're out in the ocean and I just threw you into the ocean and said, sink or swim? I'll meet you on the beach over there. Some people may make it, right? Some people may make it to the beach and go, okay, I made it. Some people may almost drown and make it to the beach, and some people just won't make it. Regardless, the people on the beach at the end, or the people that are now recognized as corrective exercise specialists, are scared to get back in the water because it was a daunting prospect, and they may have passed the test, but they didn't get any knowledge or confidence about the process along the way. We're the opposite. We empower you along the way, so when you get to that beach, you're like, I can't wait to get back in the ocean again because I know exactly how to swim. So that's the difference between us and other corrective exercise programs, is we are not a sink or swim. We empower you along the way so that you feel confident at the end to use that information immediately with clients.
Excellent, excellent. And something to just throw out there real quick, Justin, if you've got any apps open or anybody else like I do, I have kids that are usually streaming on the internet. You're starting to have an in and out connection, I think. So if anybody else is poaching your Wi-Fi, make sure they're shut down, turn it off on your phone, etc. You got to love it. Here we are, a technology company, all of us that are doing these interviews and webinars, and we find ourselves right in the middle of it. I can't hear you. It's just coming in and out. Reminder to the listeners, put your questions in the question panel. I am seeing several coming in, including some really long ones, so I'm going to get a chance to read it. And download the handouts. Download the handouts because we have information in there specific to what Justin's talking about. So this is my next question for you, Justin, is I think a very common one, and I know it's one that I got a lot. It's one that I asked a lot, and it felt like it was gray to me. And now that we have an expert here, can you tell us, is corrective exercise within the scope of practice of a fitness professional, of a personal trainer, of a fitness coach?
Absolutely. Like, that is the best question ever. And I used to get it a lot, and I don't get it so much anymore because fitness professionals realize there is no one better to understand how the body works under load. Obviously, we're not there to treat or diagnose medical conditions, but we are experts in muscles and movement. So if someone's body has dysfunctional muscles or dysfunctional movement patterns, could you think of anyone else in the world that is better equipped to deal with that? And especially if you're trained in corrective exercise, right, then you are the person to address dysfunctional muscles and movement. I'm not saying you need to diagnose problems or say that, this is why this aches and this is why this is a problem. Your goal as a fitness professional, corrective exercise specialist, is to obviously do the assessment, but that assessment guides you towards what muscles are dysfunctional, and that's 100% within the scope of practice as a fitness professional, is to understand anatomy and to understand movement, get people's muscles healthier, get their movements better, then they will feel and function better as a result. So it's not only within the scope of practice for fitness professionals, it's paramount to their success, I believe.
Excellent. And I can remember we had a physical therapist that was part of the same building, the club that I worked at, and I would joke around with him because often we would see folks coming from him into working with coaches, with trainers. And I used to joke around with them and say, my job is actually to put you out of business.
Yeah.
my job is to make sure they don't get to a point where they have to go get some help.
And I think it's great. I mean, you've got to have physical therapists and physiotherapists because there are acute injuries and there are issues that we can't deal with. So it's absolutely imperative that you have those people in your referral network. But if someone comes to you and has something that is limiting, you need to be able to address that versus refer out. Because referring out is great to obviously for the issues that people need help that are beyond your scope of practice. But if you kicked everyone out of the door because they had an imbalance, you could be kicking out 99% of your clientele.
Yeah, indeed. Well, thank you for that. On that, so we know it's within scope of practice. We understand the importance of it. What tips would you give our listeners who are thinking, well, shoot, this sounds like a really good thing to integrate, or this is something I want to do more of, or this is something I want to understand better? How do I price it? How do I advertise it? How do I build it into my existing model? What kind of advice would you give, Justin?
Well, I think the number one tip is as you get good at corrective exercise and become proficient in it, you start to see the body differently. You start looking around and think everyone's got a problem. You see people walking down the street and say, oh, they've got too much arch in their lower back, or their knees dive in, or their feet overpronate, or whatever. And that's exciting for you as the fitness professional, but that can be daunting if that's the way you try to get your clients interested in corrective exercise. Meaning, don't go telling your clients everything that's wrong with them, because they came there to you for solution. They didn't come there to get abused more by saying, oh, not only are you overweight and don't eat right, but now you're out of alignment as well. So that's the benefit we have as corrective exercise specialists, fitness professionals, is we get to spend time with our clients. And spending time with your clients means that you get to know them, and you get to understand their underlying motivations for why they've come to see you. For example, if someone was overweight and you saw them out on the street, you're not going to go up to them and say, hey, I think you're 20 pounds overweight, are you? You're going to understand why they're possibly overweight, what their motivations are for losing weight. So if you're working with someone who's maybe squatting and you see that their lower back arches too much, like they have excessive lumbar lordosis, which is overarching of the lower back, their knees dive in and they overpronate. Don't go to that client, oh, I see that your lower back's got all these problems, your knees are doing this, if you're doing that. You know from having worked with them that the reason why they're squatting, for example, might be because they want to play with their grandkids, right? They want to be able to squat down and play with their grandkids. So a better way to approach them or introduce them to corrective exercise is say, hey, I know you want to be able to squat down and play with your grandkids. I've got some exercises that'll help you do that better. Stay in that position longer, not have aches in your knees when you get up. Would you like me to show you some of those things? That way you keep your expertise and the, that excitement about corrective exercise and all the imbalances to yourself, and use that information to help your clients rather than scaring them more into, probably more anxiety about their condition, and it's better to empower them instead. I found that to be successful with attracting clients, and I know that's what our specialists do, and it works wonders for attracting clients to corrective exercise. I think the second tip is make sure you get a process. If you don't have a process for integrating corrective exercise into your business, get a process that works and that is easy to understand. Let's say, for example, you go to a hairdresser and you say, I want this haircut. And they go, okay, well, maybe we should start on top. What do you think? Or maybe we should start at the back. Just turn you around and have a look at the back. No, let's just start here and then we'll reassess it and have a look. Or maybe we'll use these scissors and maybe, no, I'll tell you what, we'll use these thinning scissors instead. You want to go to a hairdresser and you want to say, this is the haircut I want. And then you want them to have a process that makes sense. Like if I go to a hairdresser, I know, hey, they're going to start on my sides, then go to the back, then finish on top. And I feel confident that they know what they're doing and the process works. If you've got a process of corrective exercise, it's kind of like I'll try this assessment and see if it works, and then I'll try this assessment. Maybe this exercise I learned yesterday on YouTube, and maybe I'll try that assessment I saw at a lecture. If you don't have a tried and true process that works from start to finish, then I just suggest that you get one that makes sense to you, because if it makes sense to you, then you can communicate it effectively to your clients and it will prove successful in the long run. So that'd be my second tip, is get a process that you understand completely and can easily communicate to your clients. My third and final sort of tip for this webinar would be make sure you stay within your scope of practice. It's very exciting when you get good at corrective exercise because you're going to get heaps of referrals, not only from medical professionals, but from other personal trainers who have clients with issues. They're going to say, go see, John or whatever, or me, Justin, because he knows what he's doing. He's going to help you. That's great for business, but the problem is that client excitement, because they've said, I finally found someone that can help me. They start sharing all sorts of medical conditions with you, things you've never even heard of. And you're going to think, well, hey, I'm doing so well. They've come to me because I can help them. Let me help them with that. That's the worst thing you can do, because now you're doing things that are well without your scope of practice. You're acting like a medical professional. People will start to tune in on that, and your reputation versus being continued to be enhanced will actually start to go down. So stay within your scope of practice as a corrective exercise specialist or fitness professional that understands muscles, understands movement, and can help clients with that effectively. That way you can network with medical professionals and say, these are my expertise. I'm going to leave you to your expertise. We can develop a good network together, and then everyone wins. So that's my third tip, is always work within your scope of practice, because that will lead to more referrals. You'll develop more of a specialty niche, and clients will always be coming in your door.
Brilliant, excellent. And again, for those of you that are familiar with our education, that's another portion that Justin teaches, is giving and receiving referrals on how to grow your business by building a bigger network of professionals that you work with. So
Right.
there's obviously it's important. We've heard it more than once now. So what I'm going to do now, just to keep us kind of tuned in to time, is I'm going to grab a couple of questions here. Okay, because I want to make sure that those folks that are diligently typing away have the opportunity. Because I have questions selfishly that I want to ask, but it's not. I want to make sure we get to these first. This is such a great topic. Let's see. Whoa, let's see. Okay, this is kind of long, so I'm gonna hope I can scroll it properly. This is from Susan, and Susan is a fan. Susan says, yeah, I just finished my TBMM, so the BioMechanics Method, level 1 certification. So happy, love the course. Wondering if Justin is able to answer one question. In my area, Michigan, gyms are closed. I have quite a bit of corrective exercise and PT experience, but I'm finding that clients are having difficulty with the first assessment, the talus position check over Zoom. I am nervous about it now because I don't want people to get frustrated or feel like they failed in our first session. It's the only assessment I'm having difficulty with, and I don't want to lose people because of it. Do you have
that is a great question, Susan. I could not agree with you more. That is a brilliant question. So here's the answer. So there are, when you do the learn the assessments in the biomechanics method, there are 3 parts. There's a visual assessment, there's a verbal assessment, which you gather at the beginning, so you get a health history. Then there are visual assessments and hands-on assessments. The talus bone assessment, for people who are listening who don't understand that, or doesn't make sense to them, is a hands-on assessment of a bone in the ankle to tell you if someone pronates or supinates. However, Susan knows this, it's the last assessment you do for the foot and ankle, and it's a way of confirming what you already know from your visual assessments. The visual assessments of the feet and ankles are things you can do, and there are actually about 4 visual assessments, only 1 hands-on assessment. The visual assessments can all be done remotely. So those are, for Susan and for other people looking, you look at the people's feet, the condition of their toes, the way they're standing, the position of their feet, ankles, lower leg and knees, and that will give you the information you require to know what is going on with someone's feet and ankle complex. The hands-on assessment that people find difficult to do over Zoom or Skype or whatever, I wouldn't do that if when I work with clients in Skype or Zoom or whatever platform you decide. I don't use that because it is frustrating for the client, because they don't know what their bone is for a start, the talus bone, and for you trying to get them to palpate it is not a good idea, because now clients start to get frustrated, as you said. They start to lose their involvement in the program. So only use the visual assessments, which you know from doing the biomechanics method, when you're doing things via Zoom or remotely. And just for Susan, as she progresses, I wouldn't, if you're doing hands-on assessments from your biomechanics method, she knows they're very simple, and I'm sure she has been smart enough to get the client to use their hands for certain assessments, because they're the talus bone one is the only one that requires specific anatomical knowledge. All the rest can be done by the lay person, and that's why she's finding it easy to do via Zoom, Skype, and so forth. So it's a great question. Thank you, Susan.
Excellent. And she did reply. She said, yes, thank you so much. Excellent. Good. I'm loving these questions. Let's see. Brandon says, I'm currently certified through TBM and
Hi, Brandon.
And a corrective exercise specialist. I love it. I love that you know what your specialty is and you throw it out there. How do I absolutely know when my clients are making enough progress in corrective exercise to add load and or plyometrics to their program?
That's a great question. Just work with them in like every program you do in exercise, gradual progression. So let's say our load might be a squat, okay? So we know from doing our assessments, Brandon, that say the single leg squat assessment, you know that if they've got problems, and whether those problems are coming from their ankle, their hip, their pelvis, their thoracic spine, head, and so forth. If you're addressing those things and empowering your clients the way that the biomechanics method teaches you, then they should be doing their corrective exercise homework on a regular basis so that they're not taking up their sessions with you doing corrective exercise homework. They're actually doing the homework. So it's going to be an ongoing process, that homework, but they're going to be getting better. So introduce them to load gradually, maybe do body weight squats, and see if what you've taught them about, using the muscles they now know how to use in their feet to stabilize the foot and ankle, the muscles they know now how to use in their gluteal region, abdominal region, whatever you have identified was problematic should be starting to be integrated into their, their load-based exercises. The worst thing you can do is not use gradual progression, because what that's going to do is set your client back. So obviously clients are introduced to corrective exercise, they're moving a bit better. I would probably get to a stage where they're starting to get into at least some integrated movements first before you do closed chain loaded exercises like squats and so forth. But when you've got to that portion of your corrective exercise program where they're starting to integrate the parts of their body as a chain, introduce the loaded exercises, but introduce them gradually, because you want them to be successful at that stage. If they're not successful, like they get a knee pain or a back pain or whatever it is, then that's going to set them back exponentially. It's like if you're climbing Everest, and we walk up, Dan and I walk up to Everest, and I say, Dan, we're going to climb to the top. There's glaciers all along the way. You can fall into a ravine. There's avalanches. 10 people died last year on Everest. That's too much too soon. I'm going to say to Dan, hey, we're going to walk to that first little hut over there, 100 meters down the road. He's going to say, okay, I can handle that. We're going to walk together to that hut. He's going to go, that was easy. And then we just turn and we look at the next step. So it's gradual progression until eventually he's standing on the top of Everest saying, how the heck did we get here? So first rule of exercise applies to corrective exercise as well. Gradual progression. Do not overdo it too quickly, too soon. It'll only set you and your client back.
Excellent, excellent advice. Thank you so much for the question. Let's see. Brandon says, thank you. Great. I love this. I love this, this feedback. It's the only way we can connect with you, right? It's so weird in this virtual way. So I love the feedback, love the questions, love to be able to share the comments and so forth with Justin as well. Lynette has an interesting question here, Justin. She says, hi, in lockdown, I've had to go back to old-fashioned aerobic teaching on Zoom and found that my Achilles seems to get better. I now have gone back to the gym and riding the bike and strider and found that the Achilles is back to being sore. I finished the course, which I assume is your course, and this is baffling me, she said.
Well, the Achilles tendon, from the course, and hopefully everyone knows that, is the extension of the gastrocnemius and soleus, ties into the heel bone, right, so the calcaneus, and its job is to assist those muscles in slowing down the lower leg as it comes over the foot. So the fancy term for that is it decelerates dorsiflexion, right? So it means that when the lower leg's coming over the foot, it's lengthening under tension to slow down your lower leg coming over the foot, your upper leg coming over the foot, and your pelvis and spine and so forth. So I hate to say it, but without me looking at all those parts, which is ankle coming over the foot, knee coming over the foot, upper leg coming over the foot, pelvis coming over the foot, we don't know where the problem originates. We know the symptom, which is Achilles tendonitis, but if that tendon is working too hard to slow all that stress coming down over the foot, then it's going to get irritated. So we need to look at, is it possibly the lower leg? Is it possibly the upper leg and hip got problems? Or is it the lower back? because if the body doesn't want to come forward over the foot, and then the lower back arches, and then because the body's like, oh, I've got some pain here, please help me down here, Achilles tendon, stop me going forward, then that may also cause irritation. So that's kind of my answer. But anytime anyone asks me a specific question about an ache or a pain, I would love, if I could give everyone an answer to their ache or pain, then I would put everything on YouTube and say, this is the exercise you do for this problem. So that's problematic for people that have a problem, but it's great for corrective exercise specialists because it means that you will always have a job, because you need to connect with a client, assess them. Once you assess them, then you know where the dysfunction lies. So I say to, sorry, Sarah, that was Sarah the person that asked the question. It was Sarah, I forgot your name, sorry. But the person with the Achilles tendon problem, you need to look, can you dorsiflex? If you overpronate, then possibly you are not you're not dorsiflexing well, so you're collapsing in. That could cause problems to the Achilles tendon as well, because now you're twisting the calf, getting strain and stress to the Achilles tendon. So it's difficult to say where that problem originates. Let's just put it that way. But those are some things to look at: is can I dorsiflex well? Can I extend my hip well? Which means, can I take my leg behind me well? If your knee goes in and your foot collapses, it means you probably can't take your leg behind you well. So these are things you would need to look at to understand why the Achilles tendon is getting stressed. I would imagine if you're back at the gym and you're on a treadmill, she said she was on a treadmill, right?
Let's see, it was, she was doing aerobics at home.
At home, and then in the gym.
So now going back to the gym and doing a bike and a strider.
Strider, so there it is, the strider. Right. Because the strider takes the leg further back, doesn't it? And it actually demands that you take the leg back, because it's a machine, it's a fixed machine that says, we're taking your leg back this way whether you like it or not. And your Achilles tendon is saying, I don't want you to go back there because of one of those reasons. So I guarantee if you come off the strider and stick to the bike and doing your aerobics and other forms of exercise, your Achilles tendon will feel better. That will be a quick fix for not addressing the dysfunction that is causing that in the first place.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And Mary Rose here says, wow, this is all finally making sense to me. So this is great that the dots are connected. Lynette says, thank you so much. Perfect. And that was who asked the question. I know what I've been doing wrong, just got it confirmed by the expert, and thank you. So perfect.
You're very welcome.
If only it was always that easy, right?
I know. No, but that's why you got to connect with the clients and ask questions, because that strider, because there is dysfunction there, but then obviously clients and Mary Louise, it's difficult to address all the dysfunction when you're saying, hey, I want to get back, I'm enjoying back in the gym. So if we find out an easier strategy, we put that into practice first so that the symptom can go away immediately. Then on a long-term basis, we can work on the dysfunction so she can get back to the strider. But right now, she wants to get rid of the pain and continue exercising. I don't imagine she's married to the strider in any way, so she can find an alternative why we address the underlying dysfunction. And that's the goal of corrective exercise, is making an ongoing process so that we can address this dysfunction throughout the time of working with the client while they still have fun doing the things they want to do. Not many clients want to dedicate their entire exercise time to corrective exercise, but we can integrate it successfully so that clients can continue to do the things they love as we build stronger and better bodies so they can exercise for a very long time.
Perfect. And one last question, Justin. I want to be make sure we start and finish on time here, but there's one here that I think a lot of folks would be asking if they haven't been thinking this, and that is, how much should I charge for corrective exercise services? So how does the coach build this into their program or into their pricing, into their model?
Well, they've done a lot of research on corrective exercise specialists and how much they make goes up when they take a corrective exercise specialist certification. And it's approximately 50% more than a personal trainer not qualified in corrective exercise. So that is research that is from the studies they've done on corrective exercise specialists. However, and that sounds amazing, I've seen corrective exercise specialists who are trained in the biomechanics method charge, and this is going to sound crazy, $500 an hour. That's not typical, but if you help someone not only get out of pain now, but achieve goals that they've never thought they can achieve because their body is working better, not just harder, but better, and they can do that for the rest of their life. So you can help people in their teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, all the way up into their 90s and beyond if they're still alive, right? Then you can charge accordingly because you have a magic bullet, right? A magic pill that's going to help them achieve all their goals. It's the underlying fuel they need to achieve the things that they want to achieve. So it depends how good you are. It depends how you market yourself. And it depends on the referrals you get if they come from trusted sources. But the sky's the limit on what you can charge if you do a good job.
Excellent, excellent. Wow, that's motivation right there, for sure. Excellent.
I mean, you should get paid. You should get paid accordingly if you do a good job. You go to see a specialist, you expect to pay more, don't you? The minute someone says go see a specialist, when you go to the doctor, you go, oh, how much is this going to cost you, right? But you go to that specialist because you know you're going to go one time or twice and you're done. You're not going to mess around going to 50 doctors to find the solution, right? The doctor sends you to the specialist because they know that person has knowledge in an area that I don't, and I require their knowledge. That's why specialists charge more money. And it's the same for corrective exercise specialists, if you know what you're doing.
Love it. I love it. So just to we're going to start kind of wrapping things up here a bit, Justin. And what I want to make sure of is for the listeners out there who haven't been through your education and who are intrigued, want to learn more, how do they find you? How do they find your courses? How do they connect with you, and so forth? What's the best way to learn more about Justin Price and the biomechanics method?
Wonderful. So our website is thebiomechanicsmethod.com, and that has all our courses on there, from our corrective exercise specialist certification. You can go through that as a complete course, or you can go through it in 5 modules. That makes it more affordable. Obviously, going through it in 5 separate pieces also gives you, it gives you a bunch of CECs. So you can take one module 1 year to get your CECs, progress on 6 months, a year later to go into the next module. So it's not only a curriculum, it's not only a course, but it's a curriculum as well. We have obviously business courses as well, and textbooks and so forth to anyone who's interested not only in corrective exercise, the subject, but obviously if they want to become a full specialist as well. And that's thebiomechanicsmethod.com. If anyone wants to connect with me, obviously send an email through the website, and that any questions that are specific that I can help people with will get to me, and I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Brilliant. And when we conclude the webinar for the listeners out there, within about an hour, it's time to where you're going to get an automated email that will also have that link so that you can have it top of mind. Justin, the biomechanics methods have a very special offer for anybody that's in attendance that receives that email. So it's not something you're going to find on their website. You're going to want to download the attachment that I mentioned. You're going to want to read the email that comes out, and that'll give you a 25% off any of their courses. And one of the things Justin mentioned was CECs, and of course, they're pre-approved for PTA Global. For you PTA Global graduates out there, if you're looking for ways to add tools to your tool belt, sharpen your saw, with Justin's education, you're going to get the value of the CEC as well. Now, in that email, by the way, you're also going to get some offers from PTA Global. So keep your eyes peeled. This has been very informative, Justin, and when I think and go back to when I was first private personal training and coaching, what are some of the things I would have done different? I think we all reflect on that in many aspects of our business and even our lives for that matter. There is no question, personally, this is Dan speaking, if I were to have gone back and done things differently, this is an area I definitely would have spent more time in and achieved a specialization in. Because now that I'm older and things are falling apart and things, and I am interacting more and more with folks who have either injuries or imbalances, things that could have easily been addressed at an earlier stage. I realize just how important it is. So to quote a great man I once worked with, if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. And
Exactly.
this is, this is absolutely a way that you can help so many people and truly do what it is that you're passionate about. Like Justin said, it's about the passion. That's why we're here. We all have a different reason for our passion. So find a way to help those folks. And if they can move better, feel better, have less pain, and do the things they love, that's really what it's about, right? I mean, that's really what it's about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So with that, Justin, would you just take and go ahead and close us out? Again, I thank all the listeners, and I want to turn it back over to you to just kind of close us out and finish up our Friday.
I think a great thing I heard one time was a presenter saying that when I walk around the gym, I should be able to go up to any of the trainers and ask them why they're doing an exercise. And I said, shouldn't you be able to go up to a client and ask them why they're doing that exercise? So keep that in mind, that if you can ask your clients why they're doing exercise and they don't know, then you're not doing your job right. Your job is to give clients knowledge and empower them, because once they know why they're doing something, they're going to do it forever, not just why they're with you. So think about yourself, but also think about, I need to give clients the knowledge and empowerment they need to not only be successful today, but be successful for the rest of their lives.
Wise words from a wise man. Thank you very much, Justin. Thank you
Thanks,
to all
Dan.
of the listeners. Thank you all for tuning in on another Friday. Wishing you all the very best. And from behalf of PTA Global and all of our team, have a fantastic weekend. And I hope you tune in again next time. Thank you.